I was missing last week.
Yeah,
but
we missed you. We missed you.
Thank you.
But it was Valentine's Day, so we didn't. There was lots of people who weren't expecting to be here.
Yeah, no, we were away for the week, so that was good.
Nice.
But no, in terms of your communication and the skills this way, I've found through email and that actually being clear on what you want and giving the facts, just the facts.
Mm-hmm.
But the response I got back, they went, I thought they were going to throw it back in my face. That old saying, if you don't ask, you don't get. I actually asked, and I near as damn it got the lot.
Yeah.
But purely because I just went with the facts.
And that's interesting, because that's we've added a bit to this about the auditory digitals part of the community, when you just give facts and figures and data and keep things really straight and really simple, so that people are very clear. If you're just here for the first time, I know that most of you have been here before. It's a 45-minute session. What we do is we go through one or two, normally about one technique that we use from NLP in business. Today, we're talking about the VAK communication model. We then put you into breakout rooms just to have a chat with everyone. We have a chat with everyone and maybe share some of the things about either what you've learned or how you're using what we're covering, because some people already know what we're covering, but they're here to get their knowledge deepened. If you'd like to have a complimentary strategy session with me, it's normally 30 minutes. I'll give you details for that. At the end, you can set up a complimentary strategy session with me, and I'm happy to work on anything you want to work on, but obviously let you know about my coaching programs and the NLP programs. Okay, so first of all, who here has had no NLP training at all? Put your hand up if you're absolutely new. So this evening, this is the NLP VAK communication model. Now, the only way we make sense of the world and communicate with each other is through our senses, through what we see, what we hear, what we touch, what we smell, and what we taste. Our feelings are in our internal world. So these are the senses used to get information from the outside inside. According to the VAK communication model, most people will possess a dominant or preferred learning style. However, some will have an even balance of all three styles. Now, very often you will hear people say, oh, I'm visual, oh, I'm auditory, oh, I'm kinesthetic. No, you're not. You're using your auditory, your visual, and your kinesthetic systems. However, you might have one that you're using more predominantly than the others, but the other senses are all still there. In business, it's really, and coaching, it's to really improve communication skills. It's so important to be able to develop your use of language and behavior to fit with all the senses. So this is what we're talking about when we're talking about the VAK communication model. And it's just accepting that, and even noticing sometimes the different contexts of when a different sense is clicking in. Sometimes we'll be in a situation where we're very much in feelings. Other times we'll be in a situation where we're very much visual, or as I'll tell you a little bit about that, we can be very much auditory digital. The VAK communication model is a tool that helps you in understanding the overall personality preferences and strengths of the people that you work with. In 1970, Dr. Richard Bandler, who's the co-creator of NLP, was the first person to notice that when people were talking, there was a pattern to the way their eyes moved. Now, there's no handouts with here. If you want to take a photograph of the slides, that's okay. But take a note. I want you to go and look up something on YouTube. Look up Richard Bandler vintage eye access cues. Just go and search Richard Bandler vintage eye access cues, and you'll see one of the earliest videos of Richard Bandler way back in the 70s when he was talking about and he was introducing eye access cues. And it's fascinating. He was the first person to really start noticing the way eyes do. Dennis, have you seen that video at all? I just see your smile. It's a brilliant video because he shows how to mismatch with eye access cues. So you really annoy people. But that's Richard's way of doing things. You do things differently. So our eyes move as we search for information. Imagine a cursor on a computer screen. If I'm moving my mouse or moving my trackpad, what does the cursor do? What does the little arrow of the cursor do when it's moving around the screen? What's its job? it's a searching tool. It's a searching tool. It's really interesting. When I ask that number of people, I don't know, well, how do you describe what a cursor does? A cursor, you move a cursor around and then it gets to a file. And then you click that file and the file opens. These are your cursors. These are the cursors that you can actually watch. So your eyes are moving when they're searching for information. So if your eyes are moving up, they're moving into visuals. So they're searching for pictures or they're accessing visual information, pictures. These can be moving pictures, they can be still pictures. They can be clear pictures, they can be fuzzy pictures. They can be almost just a visual representation. When your eyes are moving side to side in line with your ears, you're accessing auditory information. When your eyes are moving now in general, this is not a hard fact. If someone's eyes are moving down to their right, they're in feelings. However, sometimes people, if left-handed people, will have reverse. Their eye access cues will be reversed. And when someone is looking down to their left, they're going into self-talk and dialogue, critical and analytical. Okay? So when we teach the eye access cues in the NLP dual certification course, I do a dual certification NLP business practitioner and business coach. My advice for using eye access cues in business is become curious and start to notice the different eye movements and listen to the words being used. When we teach and introduce eye access cues, one of the things we've got to hold back people from doing is going like that and just staring at people. Oh, your eyes moved up. Well, I had it just a couple of weeks ago. I had it in a corporate training because I teach this in corporate training. And it was really incredible. This guy just kept saying, these eyes are, he was totally fixated for 2 days about the eye access cues. And we had to pull him back a little bit. The best way to see this is go and look at YouTube videos of unscripted interviews. Now, you won't know if it's unscripted or not until you start watching the eye access cues. If someone is just giving answer after answer and they're not really thinking about it, you're not seeing the eyes move, it probably means they've been well rehearsed on the questions that are being answered. What you're looking for is what's known as a transderivational search. So you're looking for then a little bit talking to yourself, then a little bit of listening. You'll see the eyes moving around. And very often you will hear someone speaking in language that matches their predominant sense that they're using. This is what we teach for eye access cues in our certificated program. However, when I'm teaching this for business, we're talking about up for visual, side to side for auditory, down to the right for feelings, and down to the left for talking to yourself and critical thinking. So we talk about visual construct. Now, this is looking at a normal right-handed person. People that are left-handed often have this reversed. So we have visual construct, visual recall. We have auditory construct, auditory recall. And then we have feelings, which we talk about kinesthetic and feelings. And then we have auditory digital, which is the AD. As I said, we go into this a lot more when we do the master practitioner training. But if you just think of visual up, auditory eyes going side to side, down to the right, there's a good chance that they're feelings, down to the left. That's very much processing and data, numbers, and problem solving. When someone's looking up, they're in visual mode and seeing the situation, you can match this with using visual words. For example, what do you see as the best option? How clear is that for you? Imagine this being finished. Show me what you mean. Now, just on that point, who has children here or has access to young children? The worst thing you can do to a young child is say to a young child, look at me when I'm talking to you. If you look to a really excited young child, they're doing that. Often young children are a lot of their time in visual mode and they're pointing to their pictures. The coolest thing you can do with a really excited kid is start pointing to parts of the picture and say, what happened there? What happened there? What happened there? And start asking them questions about their pictures. It's so cool just to experiment and play with that. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And then you've got auditory mode when someone's looking side to side. Now, remember, it's their eyes are moving in line with their ears. That's a good way to remember that. The eyes are moving in line with the ears. They're hearing maybe what someone has said. They're hearing a soundtrack. They're hearing that they've heard something maybe on the radio. That they're replaying very often conversations. So they're listening. So match with auditory words. For example, which solution sounds right for you? Let's discuss this in more detail. Tell me more. Let's have a chat about what we can do next. The thing when we're working with auditory, it's interesting when you're face-to-face with someone who is in a high auditory mode. I'm married to one. You ask them a question. And then you'll get the auditory digital comes in talking to themselves. Meanwhile, you're losing the will to live because they haven't got back to you. However, it seems silent in your world, but in their world, it's busy. Because they are listening to what you said. They're listening to their answer. If it's not the answer they want to give, they might check with themselves and go, no, that's not the right answer. Then they'll listen to something else. So there's this whole incredible auditory thing all going on, but they will give you a really considered answer. So what I always teach all my coaches and leaders that I work with is as long as when you've asked a question, and as long as someone is doing this, zip it. Silence is your absolute, that's your best gift. Just stay silent because you want to give that person the right amount of time to come with a considered answer. So, because working in a high auditory mode, they will give you very considered answers. Okay? But they sometimes take ages to answer. You've just got to be patient, especially if you're coaching them. And also, please do not keep emailing these people. Talk to them, pick up the phone. They do not want, and you'll see it in emails. I'd like to have a chat. Let's discuss this. Let's mull this over. You'll see all sorts of words like that. My husband he's been a CEO, he's been general manager, he's in construction industry. And he used to get a text that would say, or an email, call me urgently, and used to just delete it. Still does it to this day if he gets it. Call me. And I go, how can you delete it? I said, well, it's so urgent. They can call me. They've just said, call me. Why should I call them? If it's urgent for them, they should call me. Someone who's high auditory wants to talk. And you can end up having terrible problems with customer service and really building rapport and good communications if you insist in texting and emailing back to them. Because people hide behind emails. Remember that. People can hide behind emails and they can hide behind chats. One of the ways you can get around, leave them a voice message. Leave them a voice message and they'll answer you in voice message and you can answer back in voice message because they need to hear you talking. And then when someone is looking down to the right, they're in feeling mode and feeling the situation. Use feeling words. For example, what feels like the best option for you? Are you comfortable with that solution? What's your gut instinct about this? And what could make this feel easier? When we're working with feelings, we're working with, or the kinesthetic sense, we're working with feelings, but we're also working with touch. So you will hear someone say, have you got a grasp of that? That feels really solid. That feels really concrete. That's all kinesthetic. That's all ways that we're talking kinesthetic. And when you're able to match, when you're able to listen to the different words that someone's using and match them, you're building up an unconscious communication because you're actually connecting with that person on their level. Now, where you find this is in emails. You'll see the words people are using in emails. I do coaching and I qualify business coaches. And one of the first things we work with the qualifying of coaching is getting coaches to do their coaching questionnaire that they send to clients. And we've got all sorts of questions. We ask that questionnaire. I'm not really that interested in the answers to the questions. What I am looking for, I'm looking for the language patterns. I'm looking to see what words they're using, if they're using lots of kinesthetic words, lots of visual words, lots of auditory digital words. And that is giving me a good indication of the way I have to work with them. Do I have to produce lots of pictures and videos and slides? I bring slides into my coaching sessions if I'm working with a high visual. I will go on to, if we're talking about something, because I believe business coaching has to be, this is according to me, it has to be a mixture of coaching, mentoring, and training. So depending on what someone's working on, I will just jump into one of my files. And I've got so many slides that I can use for so many things. And I'll bring up a slide and you'll just see people, or we'll go onto a whiteboard and get them to draw an organizational chart, or do it in a piece of paper and show me in camera. So there's lots of ways online you can still click into the visual mode. And then you've got the auditory digital. Auditory digital, that's when they're looking down to the left. They're in auditory digital mode processing. They're processing data, facts, and logic. Now, use logical and analytical language, for example, and this is what you said earlier on at the beginning, Colin. You said, can you outline the steps you take? Colin just shared with us, for those of you who joined, Colin shared at the beginning that he sent an email and he just stuck to the facts, and he was amazed at how successful that was, just by sticking to the facts. Now, what's interesting, let me just finish this and I'll come back and talk a little bit about the auditory digital. You said, can you outline what steps can you take? What would be the best strategy for you to use? How will you organize this project? How do you prioritize tasks or goals? Now, why we bring this into the business scenario is because as people go further up the chain, if you like, in business and move into higher leadership and have more responsibility, more people to work with, what tends to happen is they drop their sense words and move into auditory digital words. So when you're dealing with busy leaders, that's the kind of words you're getting. It's all the business words. And you can match them. So when this is the learning, visual, how someone learns and comprehends through seeing, drawing, and reading. People who have high visual preference often run movies in their head when remembering or storing information. So they're storing everything in pictures and they can see things and remember pictures. When you communicate with visual preferences, clients or colleagues, it's best to make sure you show them what you're expecting from them so that they can see what's required. You've got to be able to show them. Then auditory, how someone learns and comprehends through listening and speaking. People with high auditory preference take in information through sounds, remembering may be like replaying a recording with original tones and words. When communicating with auditory preference clients or colleagues, it's best to talk with them so they can hear words and instructions clearly. Let me just get back to visual for a moment. In a business scenario, people can judge people. If someone's got a high visual preference, they will judge them in how they're dressed, how they look. If someone is high auditory, they'll judge someone on their voice tone. I've actually had scenarios where I've said, maybe someone's interviewed, oh, I don't, so what is specific? Their voice just grated on me. And that's it. There's no getting back. That they've already made that decision very quickly about the voice. And then you have kinesthetic, how someone learns by touching and doing. People with high kinesthetic preference learn by doing. They've got to actually work through whatever it is you're learning. They've got to practice it. They've got to be hands-on, literally hands-on for things. When you communicate with kinesthetic preference clients or colleagues, it's best to give handouts and books that they can hold and write in and get them doing the activities they learn with. And they learn with body movements as well. So you will see, it's quite interesting. If sometimes in my training, we'll take little toys, Lego bricks or things like that, and we'll stick them in the middle of the table. And all they're there for is for people to fiddle with. And they'll fiddle with it, and you'll see lots of high kinesthetic learners will also doodle. They're learning, they're doing, there's a visual element to that as well, but very often they're not really conscious of what they're visually drawing, but it's the act of moving. They also learn by writing. They have to be able to write to learn. They might write pages and pages of notes, never go back to the notes because it's gone into their head by the writing process. This works online as well. This is one of the reasons we do breakout, even with this short session, we do breakout sessions so that people can get connected and maybe try out something. Anyone who trains or coaches, get people doing things. And then we've got auditory digital, how someone learns logic and reasoning, but understands concepts through logical reasoning and analysis. This links very much to, is auditory digital. It links very much to the auditory sense. And one of the things I haven't said about auditory sense, they require, if someone's got a high auditory preference, they really need a logical thread. You can't just go and blurt out something to them. You'll drive them nuts. You've got to be able to start with a beginning, a middle, and an end, and let them work through that thread really clearly so that they're able to understand. They like lists. They like to know the order of things, and you'll see them doing that quite often. You'll see them very often looking at orders. So it's just something to take into consideration. And very often auditory will also process lots of auditory digital as well. When you communicate with an auditory digital preference client or colleagues, it's best to provide explanations and instructions in a logical sequence that's clear, precise, and well organized. So this also fits for the auditory, but even more if they're really going into the auditory digital and becoming very, what we call unspecified with their words. In other words, they're using words that do not relate to any sense. They enjoy problem-solving activities and critical thinking exercise. And I'm married to a Times crossword, a cryptic crossword person that can do the cryptic crossword in 20 minutes. He just loves solving problems. So he's a real auditory, but a big auditory digital part is in there as well. Okay. Is this, before I go any further, is this useful for you? Put a wee thumbs up and tell me if it's useful. In fact, what I'd like you to maybe put in the chat what you're getting from this so we can get a little bit of feedback. So just put in the chat what you're getting from this as we go on to the next part. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to listen out for the type of words someone is using. So are they using more? They'll be using all of they'll be using all of these, but what are they using? What are they using slightly more of? Now, very often you will find really good leaders. You cannot even tell what they're using more of because they're so good, so equal between all these four systems that they're able to connect with everyone, especially in a team scenario or in a presentation. If you've got all these elements in your presentation, if you've got all these elements in your pitch, in your training, in any coaching you're doing, especially with a group, you will get every single person in that group by bringing that in. So visual, it's the words that I see what you mean. I get the picture. What's your view? Is this clear now? Now they're engaged by using charts, diagrams, charts, pictures, videos, anything visual. So they need to have pictures on your slides. There needs to be some sort of picture. And also a visual person, very often, not a visual person, sorry, the high visual preference, their worst nightmare can be a spreadsheet, especially a spreadsheet on a screen. So any numbers you're presenting, put it into charts, put it into nice shapes, because nice shapes become so much easier to understand. And then auditory, that rings a bell. I hear what you're saying. That sounds okay. Tell me more. Engaged by telling stories, stressing key words and anecdotes. They love to hear stories. They love to hear examples. They love to hear how other people maybe were using your product, services, or how other people got on with something that you're talking about. Then kinesthetic, that feels right. Do you grasp that? Are you happy with that? What is your gut feeling? And engage by using hand-on tasks and physical activities. And the auditory digital, what do you think? What do you believe? How do you define that? So can you see these are words that are not really to do with senses. It's all to do with concepts. I struggled a wee bit with it and I thought, how do you believe? I thought, was that into feelings? And I thought, no, it's a concept. Belief is a concept. So how are the numbers? How are the numbers getting on? They don't, and very often they will just focus on the numbers. So they engage with facts, data, statistics, and logic. Oh, we've got two lots of that. Okay, so what we call in NLP, we call representational systems, the language, and that just means words that represent the senses. Representational systems. So the words we use to represent our world. And we talk about a visual representation, an auditory representation, a kinesthetic representation. We also talk about modalities, which is the same thing, a visual modality, a kinesthetic modality, an auditory modality. And if you go on to further training with NLP, or you've already done that, you'll know about sub-modalities, which all links into this. So we construct our mental maps through these representational systems. In NLP, these are words that represent the five senses. When we speak, our words often match the senses we're using. These are called representational system predicates, or just words, okay? In business, we tend to focus on visual, auditory, and kinesthetic senses, and obviously audio-digital. While all three systems are present in your map at any given time, one is more dominant, although it's not a rule. Using different representational systems produces different behavior. By learning how to track the representational system someone is using, you can maintain rapport and become more conversationally influential. Think about the difference between someone that is high processed and they're wanting facts, figures, numbers, to someone that's thinking in films. Full Technicolor films, different behaviour and different ways of matching that behaviour. And then in presentations, this is just a little hint for presentation and training. Create a visual element. Make sure there's a visual element. Slides, pictures, videos, diagrams, charts. Create an auditory element. Questions, chat, discussion. Make sure your presentation is a logical thread with a beginning, a middle, and an end. Create kinesthetic elements by having handouts or workbooks. Make sure they're high quality, including demonstrations and practical exercises when you're getting your audience to do things. If you're in person in training or working with someone and you're handing them a book or a handout or anything that they're taking away to represent you and your business, make sure you've got the best paper possible. We do our workbooks in 160-gram paper with really beautiful covers. Sometimes we go to 200-gram paper. You're wanting at least 160 up, and you're wanting nice texture, nice feel, because unconscious, if you give someone a really flimsy, recycled 80-gram piece of paper that's just, it's representing you. Because people, and even for myself, I've got a high kinesthetic preference. I'm in a shop looking for clothes. I've got that. Oh, if I don't like the touch of material, I won't even need it. My first thing I do is I go and touch before I even would think about trying something on. And then you've got the auditory digital element, provide accurate facts and figures. So according to the Social Science Research Network, 65% of people are visual learners. People retain 80% of what they see compared to 20% of what they read and only 10% of what they hear. And there's the source for that. So that's what auditory digital people are looking for. They're looking for, so they're the ones that will say, where did you get that fact? They will quite, and that research according to whom. Okay, so what I'm going to do, any questions before we put you into breakout rooms? Yeah, okay, so that's the rooms open. We're going to go in for 7 minutes tonight. Just 7 minutes, okay?
What's we talking about?
Just go in and chat about maybe something you've learned.
Okay.
Just say hello. You won't get just say hello, chat about something you've learned, or maybe share somewhere that this has worked for you. Okay, and we'll just put the recording on pause. How was that? Good? Yeah, is everyone taking away something from that? Let's just get feedback. I know we're running maybe about 5 minutes over tonight, but who would like to give a little bit of feedback on what they've got from either in the breakout room or just what we've covered? We'll just take one person.
As always, Fiona,
Thank
there
you.
is always more information than you've ever said before. And that's what I was saying to Jackie. It's when you're doing this, you either say that it's a review or you've added something that clicks even more than it had before. And it's
Yes.
amazing. I like it.
I'm always adding little bits and little angles and different things. So even if you come on this about this same session 5 or 6 times, there'll probably be a different thing you'll pick up every time, because I don't like to do exactly the same. And plus we end up with lots of examples, which is great. Is everyone able now to have a little bit more understanding about, I know most of you know about the VAK communication, but hopefully there's something you're taking away that has made it a bit clearer. Anyone who would like a complimentary strategy session, just book on that. You have now got my calendar finally up and running. We had so many problems with it. We've now got that up and running, so you can book there. And let me just share what else we've got. We've got those of you who are NLP trained and would like to continue your training as a certified NLP business coach. We've got that training starting in April. So you can email me at fiona@theprofessionalgrowthcompany.com. I'll send the details of that out on the thank you email that comes. But if you have to, for that one, you have to have attended at least a 7-day certification program. Before, I used to only offer the coach after business practitioner, business master practitioner, business coach, but I changed my strategy on that because I really believe for using coaching skills in business, when you've got your practitioner or your business practitioner, what the coaching program will do for you, it gives you a whole structure. And plus we give you a coaching in a box templates. You get all your templates, you get your coaching questionnaire, you get your coaching contracts, you get everything for you to brand. And we take you through how to introduce your coaching, how to do a discovery session, how to do an intake session. So that's starting in April, and that will be joining the people that are on the dual certification course. And then we've got how to use the NLP meta model in business. Again, I will send out the link on that. That's our online training. It's normally $399, and anyone who attends here, you can get that for $99. Over 60 videos. The NLP meta model is the information gathering model. And I was actually on Dr. Richard Bandler's assisting team for 8 years in London with Dr. Richard Bandler and Paul McKenna. I was assisting in their trainings. And when you watch people like Bandler, when you watch people like Robert Dilts, all the top NLP trainers, they are masters of the meta model. And the lovely thing about the meta model, I teach it in business. I teach it. So this is a way that you can break this down. You can teach it to business professionals. Okay, I've taken you 2 minutes past. I believe somebody asked for the YouTube link. I will send that out. When you get your email that follows this, there's a link to YouTube. And we've got all the recordings of all these sessions are all up on YouTube. Okay, so if anyone needs to ask me something, I'll stay here for a few minutes. If not, take care. Thank you for being here. Those of you who are members of the NLP Business Circle Club, our masterclass is tomorrow from 7 o'clock till 9 o'clock. And we're working on the positive coaching model. We're going to be, and that's a 2-hour session where we do lots of breakout work. If you want any interest in that as well, you can let me know. Okay, but thank you very much, and we'll see you soon. Thank you very much for being here. Give yourself a big round of applause.